This article from PreventDisease.com. CIA-operated aerial spraying plane carrying mutated virus shot down in China. Reports circulating in the Kremlin today are stating that a US government-contracted airplane piloted by American CIA agents and carrying a cargo of mutated swine flu virus intended for aerial spraying was shot down at China's Shanghai Pudong airport by a saboteur team of what are believed to be Israeli Mossad soldiers seeking to prevent an American attack upon one of their Central Asian bases located in the Central Asian nation of Kyrgyzstan. According to Chinese media reports on this incident, the stricken Zimbabwean MD-2 plane, owned by the CIA-linked aviation company operated by a former British military officer named Andrew Smith and registered in the UK, killed 3 American CIA agents and injured 4 other personnel who were reported to be from the United States, Indonesia, Belgium and Zimbabwe. Most interesting to note in these reports on the victims of this plane shoot-down is that the Indonesian man currently being treated for his injuries has confessed to Chinese secret police forces that he is a technician employed by the United States Navy at their mysterious Naval Medical Research Unit No. 2, Namru-2, located in Indonesia, that Indonesian Defence Minister Juwono Sudarsono had previously called for the closing of because its operations were too secretive and were incompatible with Indonesia's security interests. Even more interesting to note about this US Navy secret bioweapons base in Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim nation, was its establishment in cooperation with the Rockefeller Institute, especially with it being the main centre for the Americans' Viral Diseases Program, VDP. They describe as the research of epidemiologic and laboratory research on viral hemorrhagic fevers, influenza, encephalitis, and rickettsiosis. And the head of this institute, David Rockefeller, long calling for a massive reduction in our world's population. And the agenda currently underway to radically change our world through the mass death of its population, we need look no further for its explanation than David Rockefeller's own words. He spoke before the secretive Trilateral Commission in June 1991 when he said, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during those years. But the work is now much more sophisticated, but the world is now much more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national auto-determination practiced in past centuries." These bankers really do live in a different world. To the United States employing planes to spread a mutated swine flu virus around the world, we have further reports from China, and as we can read, I'll quote, June 26, suspicious aircraft were forced to land. The US-operated AN-124 changed its call sign from civilian to military, which then triggered a response from the IAF upon entering Pakistani airspace. The plane was forced to land in Mumbai, while the second one was forced down by Nigerian fighter jets that also arrested the crew. According to reports, China People's Liberation Army Air Force, contacted the Indian and Nigerian intelligence officials about the presence of these US-operated Ukrainian aircrafts amidst growing concern that the United States was spreading biological agents in the Earth's atmosphere, also which some Chinese officials believed to have been an attempt to mass genocide via the spread of the H1N1 swine flu. The strange thing about these reports and arrests, as well as the forcing down of the planes, but that these aircrafts were carrying a waste disposal systems that could spray up to 45,000 kilograms or 100 pounds of aerial type mist from sophisticated network of nanopipes that led throughout the trailing edges of the wings, thereby dispersing whatever was in these tanks through a mist. Reports of these US planes over Ukraine have been reported And as we can further read, authorities in the town of Kiev, Ukraine, denied any spraying of aerosolized medication by aircraft over the city. This after it was reported that light aircrafts were seen flying over the forest market area that sprayed an aerosol substance to fight H1N1 or swine flu. 5 sources confirmed that this and the local newspapers of Kiev also received hundreds of phone calls from residents and business owners close to the area. The planes were spraying the suspicious substance. Not only that, but local businesses and retailers were advised to stay indoors during the day by the local authorities. As if that is not enough, the government authorities also pushed a radio station in Kiev to deny the reports online on forums, websites and blogs. Reports came in about eyewitness accounts that confirms this. There was also reports of helicopters spraying aerosols over Kiev, Lviv, Ternopil and throughout Ukraine. Most disturbing of the effects of the spraying of this mutated swine flu virus over the Ukraine is the devastating toll it has taken on the people of that country, and as we can read, almost 40,000 people got infected since yesterday in the Ukraine by what we still call the Ukraine plague. The doctors have said recently that this is a stronger case of H1N1 or swine flu that has mutated and has that effect on the lungs, where it destroys the lungs and fills it with blood. But to the most horrible outcome of this mutated swine flu virus is the World Health Organization now reporting that it is killing people in France, Norway, Brazil, China, Japan, Mexico, Ukraine and the United States, as the death toll from this global pandemic is now reported to be nearing 8,000, and China now reporting that this deadly disease has now crossed over into dogs. Important also to note that in these reports is that the US spray plane shot down in China was reported was reported to be targeting a secret Israeli base located in the Central Asian nation of Kyrgyzstan, which many Ashkenazi Jews make up approximately 80% of Jews worldwide, consider their spiritual homeland after their long exile there under Soviet communist rule, and where Russian intelligence analysts report the Israelis are nearing the end of their decades-long deciphering of the ancient Epic of Manas manuscript. With close to 500,000 lines, the Epic of Manas is 20 times longer than Homer's Odyssey and Iliad combined, that they believe contains our world's oldest warning to our present age, and which coincidentally agrees with the ancient Mayan peoples that the year 2012 will see the ending of our present age. To the final outcome of these events, it is not in our knowing, other than to state the obvious, that the truths of these are continued to be ignored, even scoffed at by the very people whose extermination has been long planned by these monsters and is now being carried out, and who still have no idea whatsoever how truly easy it has become for them to be controlled by their propaganda masters. One can only hope that they awaken before all is lost for them. The facts suggest they won't. And that is an article from preventdisease.com. The reference source, packalert.wordpress.com, November the 30th, 2009. Thank you for